The traffic on the 405 hadn't moved in 11 minutes. I knew because I'd been watching the clock on the dashboard. The way you watch a pot you've already decided won't boil. The man in my passenger seat hadn't said a word since I picked him up outside a coffee shop in Mar Vista. He'd had to reach across and roll down his window from my side because the passenger handle was broken. And he hadn't even mentioned it. And I'd already apologized twice, once for being 4 minutes late and once for the weather, which was 72 degrees and not my fault. Sorry about the traffic, I said. 3. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, not the quick, polite glance people give you at red lights, but something slower, like he was turning me over in his head. The way you look at a spider in a bathtub. Not disgust, recognition, careful, almost gentle, like, oh, so that's what this is. I should back up. His name was Jude. Deja knew a girl whose brother was in an improv troupe with him, and I'd paid him $200 to be my boyfriend for 5 hours. Come to my parents' 4th of July party, hold my plate, call me babe, leave when I say leave. I'd written him a 1-page brief the night before, like he was a new vendor at work. 3 years with Ethan, moved into the Culver City apartment together. He left in February with a duffel and I need space. And by March, he was posting photos with Kristen from his account team. He's bringing her, Deja had said on the phone. To your parents' house, on the 4th. So I'm not going. Yes, you are. You're bringing someone. That was how Jude ended up in my passenger seat in an ironed button-down, watching me apologize to a highway, for the record, he said as the car ahead crept forward 3 feet. Nobody controls the 405. You're clear. I know. I'm just nervous. Yeah, he said. I got that. We wound up the hill into Palos Verdes, ocean glinting between rooftops on the left. The neighborhood smelled like lighter fluid and jasmine. Somebody 3 houses down was already setting off fireworks that were definitely illegal in this zip code. My dad was on the front lawn with tongs and an apron that said "Kiss the Cook," talking Rams offensive line with Craig. My mom was on the porch setting out a bowl of chips, watching the street like she took attendance. I put the car in park but didn't cut the engine. The unopened credit card bill was still on the floor by Jude's feet, where I'd thrown it 3 days ago. Last chance. You can drive yourself home. I'll still Venmo you the full $200. Jude looked at the house, then at me. You want me to stay? I nodded. My throat was tight. Then I'm staying. He opened the door. Come on, babe. It was a performance, but it landed somewhere real anyway. The afternoon was the usual chaos. Mia and Chase ran through the sprinklers in their swimsuits. My mom hugged Jude too long and asked him where he went to church. Todd showed up late, half asleep or half stoned or both, and shook Jude's hand like they were old friends. Gwen asked what he did for work, and when he said mostly theater and some teaching, her smile got thin the way it always did when she decided someone wasn't serious enough. My dad didn't say much. He just handed Jude a burger and said, "Beer's in the cooler." Jude was good. No grand gestures, no handsy stuff. He stood close, laughed at my dad's grill jokes, asked Todd about the dispensary like he actually cared. When my mom said, all casual, Ethan mentioned he might stop by. Jude's hand found the small of my back, light and steady, and I didn't flinch. Ethan showed up at 4. He parked his BMW in the driveway like he still lived there. Kristen got out in a white sundress carrying a bottle of wine, looking like a catalog. Ethan looked like Ethan. Navy polo, boat shoes. The smile he used in client meetings. He hugged my mom, shook my dad's hand, said, "Hey, Marin," like we'd run into each other at Vaughn's. Then he saw Jude. "Who's your friend?" "Jude," Jude said, putting out his hand. Her boyfriend. The smile didn't move, but something behind Ethan's eyes shifted, quick as a channel change. "Boyfriend? You move fast." "Do I?" I said. Kristen said, "Nice to meet you," and she meant it, or she was good at seeming to. I couldn't tell yet. Ethan worked the yard like a campaign, asking Craig about his practice, flipping burgers with my dad, making Gwen laugh too loud at a story I'd heard 4 times. Every time he looked at me, his expression said, "I see the prop. I see what you're doing." And every time, I got a little smaller. It happened by the picnic table. He'd come over for a soda and said something low, just for us, about how I looked well, which was his way of saying I looked like I'd been crying for 5 months. Then he said, "If you needed a date, you could have just asked. You didn't have to." He nodded at Jude, 10 feet away talking to Todd. Do all this. Jude set down his plate. He didn't walk fast, and he didn't raise his voice. He just stepped between us, calm as anything, and looked at Ethan the way he'd looked at me on the 405. "She was 4 minutes late picking me up today," Jude said. 4 minutes. "And she apologized to me for the traffic on the 405. Somebody's kid shrieked by the sprinkler. You knew her 3 years. And I'm the first person who's ever told her she doesn't have to." The yard went quiet the way a stain spreads, from the picnic table outward. My dad stopped mid-flip with the tongs in the air. Gwen's hand froze over the potato salad. Kristen's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. Ethan's smile was gone. For the first time all afternoon, he didn't have anything to say. I stood there holding a paper plate, unable to breathe, unable to look away from Jude's profile, calm, steady, like he hadn't just split the afternoon open with one sentence. My mother was the one who broke the silence. "Well," she said too bright, "who wants pie?" Nobody moved. The pie came out anyway. My mom cut it into 8 slices and passed them around like nothing had happened. And for 10 minutes that was almost possible. Ethan ate his standing up by the grill, talking to Craig about dental insurance like he hadn't just been filleted in front of his girlfriend and his ex's entire family. Kristen picked at hers on the porch steps, alone. Jude and I sat at the picnic table, and my dad sat down across from us with his own slice and didn't say anything, which was its own kind of statement. We left at 6. I didn't say goodbye to Ethan. I didn't say goodbye to Kristen. I hugged my mom, and she held on a second too long and whispered, "He's a nice boy, your friend," which I couldn't parse yet. My dad clapped Jude on the shoulder and said, "Good burger," which Jude accepted with a nod. In the car, I waited until we'd wound back down the hill and merged onto the 405 before I spoke. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah," Jude said. "I did. That wasn't the deal. The deal was hold my plate, call me babe, leave when I say leave. The deal was not," I gestured at the windshield, at the whole stupid afternoon behind us, "that. He was baiting you. I know what he was doing." "Okay." Jude watched the taillights ahead. "So you were just gonna let him?" It wasn't a question. I didn't answer it. We drove in silence, the AC humming, and then he said quieter, "I have a sister, Hannah. She was with a guy for about 4 years who talked to her exactly like that. Not yelling. Just little stuff. Constant. Like water on stone. By the time she left, she apologized to the cab driver who drove her away from her own apartment building." He paused. I wasn't gonna stand there and watch it happen to somebody else on my time off. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said, "Your dog. You mentioned a dog on the phone. Potato. Chihuahua mix. 10. She had an ear infection that turned into something worse. Vet bill ate my rent money." He looked over at me. For the record, I would have done it for free. The 200 was just the only reason I said yes in the first place. I pulled up outside his place in Mar Vista, a boxy duplex with a dead lawn and a chain link fence. He got out, then leaned back in. "You're gonna hear from him. He's not done." "I know. Don't apologize to him." He shut the door. I watched him walk up the path. And then I drove home. My phone had been buzzing in my purse since the pie. I sat in my parking garage and read through it. The family group chat, Ellison Family Chat, named by Todd 4 years ago and never changed, was a war zone. Gwen had sent 4 in a row. Marin, that was incredibly rude. "You can't just let strangers talk to people like that. Ethan is family. Call me." Todd had replied, "Mao, family since when?" Craig had liked Gwen's messages. My mom had sent a single period, which was her version of a nuclear weapon. My dad hadn't typed anything. There were 2 texts from Ethan. The first, "We need to talk about your friend." The second, sent 20 minutes later, "I'm worried about you, Marin. I really am." I stared at that second one for a long time. He'd called me by my name. He never used my name when he was being kind. He saved it for when he wanted something to sound official, like a doctor delivering a diagnosis. "I'm worried about you." It was the same sentence he'd used the night before he left, sitting on the edge of our bed, telling me he needed space because I was so anxious all the time, and he couldn't carry it anymore. I typed, "I'm fine. Don't contact me again." I stared at it, deleted it, typed, "I'm fine, thanks." Deleted that too. I locked my phone and went upstairs. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed with the window open, listening to a dog bark somewhere in the complex, replaying Jude's sentence on a loop. I'm the first person who's ever told her she doesn't have to. It should have made me feel better. It made me feel sick, because it was true, and because a stranger had seen it in 4 hours when my own family hadn't seen it in 3 years. At 1 in the morning, my phone buzzed again. Not Ethan, a number I didn't know. "Hey, this is Kristen." Ethan's Kristen. "I know this is weird. I just wanted to say I'm sorry about today. About all of it. You don't have to write back." I read it 3 times. I didn't write back, but I didn't delete it either. I set the phone on my chest and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. The ceiling fan clicked on each rotation. Jude's voice was still in my head, and underneath it, Ethan's. "I'm worried about you." He was right about one thing. I was going to hear from him again. I called in sick on Monday. That was a first. In 5 years at Kestrel Design, I'd taken exactly 2 sick days and answered emails during both. But I sat on my kitchen floor at 7 a.m. with a cup of coffee I didn't drink and stared at the stack of mail I'd been avoiding, and I couldn't make myself stand up. The credit card bill was on top. I'd carried it up from the car like a dead thing. I opened it at the kitchen table. $8,412. I knew the number. I'd known it for months, in the way you know a lump you haven't had checked. You know it's there. You just don't look at it directly. But I'd never read the line items. Furniture World in Playa Vista, 1 to 840, March 12th. A restaurant in Malibu I'd never been to, 214, March 29th. A jewelry store in Santa Monica, 460, April 3rd, April 3. He'd been gone 6 weeks. I put the bill down. Picked it up again. Called the number on the back. The woman on the phone was polite, in the way people are polite when they don't care what happens to you. I told her I wanted to report unauthorized charges. She asked if I'd given the user my card. I said he was an authorized user. She made a sound, not unsympathetic, just tired, and said that made it complicated, that I could file a dispute but authorized user charges were hard to reverse. I said I wanted to file anyway. She said she'd send the forms. Then I said, "I want him removed. As an authorized user. Today." She said that was done. I hung up and sat there. My hands were shaking. I changed the garage code. I went through my accounts one by one. Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, the shared checking we'd never gotten around to closing, and changed every password, removed his email from every one. It took 40 minutes. When I was done, I felt like I'd moved a couch by myself. Sore, a little sick, but the room looked different. The phone rang. Gwen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I answered. Are you kidding me? She said. Not a question. Are you actually kidding me, Marin? Hello to you too. Todd told me. Todd? Your brother found out from your fake boyfriend's roommate or something, and then I had to hear it from him. You hired a stranger off the internet? Not off the internet. Deja knew him. That's worse. She was talking the way she talked to her fourth graders when they wouldn't line up. Loud, slow, like I was being deliberately difficult. Do you have any idea how this looks? Ethan has been nothing but gracious about this whole thing, and you, gracious? I stared at the wall above the counter, where a nail stuck out where a picture used to hang. We'd taken it down together because Ethan said it clashed with the rug. Gwen, he told me he was worried about me. In front of his girlfriend. At our parents' house. Because he is worried. Because you're acting? She stopped. She didn't finish, but I heard the end of it anyway. Unstable. Crazy. Like him. Acting what? Nothing. Just call Mom. She's upset. She hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand. Then I texted Ethan, because I knew if I didn't do it now, I'd never do it. Don't contact me again. I mean it. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, Marin, let's talk. I don't want this to get ugly. I read it 6 times. I didn't write back. I blocked his number. It felt like slamming a door on my own finger. Painful, stupid, and long overdue. I thought that was the hard part. It wasn't. The hard part was Tuesday when Lacey from book club texted, Hey, are you okay? Ethan said you've been having a hard time and asked us to reach out. The hard part was Wednesday when my cousin Brittany DM'd me on Instagram. Heard things are rough. Praying for you. The hard part was finding out, through Todd, that Ethan had called my mom Monday night and told her he was concerned about Marin's mental health and that I'd hired someone to intimidate him. My mom called that night. She didn't yell. She just said, Marin, are you taking your meds? And I had to tell her, slowly, through a throat made of concrete, that I wasn't on meds, that I'd never been on meds, that Ethan had told people that. She was quiet a long time. Then she said, Well, you did hire that boy. Yeah, I said. I did. I didn't explain. I hung up and sat on the balcony watching a plane descend toward LAX, thinking about what Jude had said. Don't apologize to him. I hadn't. But nobody else seemed to notice that I hadn't done anything wrong except not want to be alone at a party. On Thursday, Deja called. She'd heard. Of course she'd heard. Girl, she said. What the hell did you do? I didn't do anything. You hired a man, Marin, a man actor person, to pretend to be your boyfriend. At a family event. Of course he's spinning it. I know that. I just thought it would be funny. I thought it would make me look like I was fine. Deja sighed. You are fine. You're just not fine in a way that Ethan gets to have an opinion about. It was the nicest thing she'd said to me in 5 months. I almost cried. That night, I got another text from Kristen. I know you don't know me, but he's telling people you're stalking him. I just thought you should know. I stared at it. Part of me wanted to believe it was real, that another person could see what Ethan was doing. But the part that had spent 3 years learning to read him was louder. She's showing him these texts. She's gathering evidence. This is a trap. I typed back. Why are you telling me this? So you can show him I'm harassing you too? She didn't answer. I set the phone down and told myself I'd done the right thing. I almost believed it. I saw Kristen on Tuesday in Santa Monica. I wasn't looking for her. That's what I told myself anyway. I'd driven out after work because I had a vendor meeting in Playa Vista that ran late, and the coffee shop on Montana was the only one I knew on that side of town. And I pulled into the lot and there she was, at an outdoor table with a laptop and a salad, alone. I should have driven away. I didn't. She looked up when I approached, and for a second something crossed her face. Not guilt. Surprise, maybe. Apprehension. We need to talk, I said. Okay. She closed the laptop. Sit down. I didn't sit. I stood over her, which I immediately knew was a mistake, because it made me look exactly as unhinged as Ethan was telling people I was, but I couldn't make myself do the calm thing. Are you showing him my texts? What? The texts you sent me. The I'm sorry and the I thought you should know. Did you show them to him? Is this some game where you two... Whoa, she held up a hand. No, I didn't show him anything. I texted you because I meant it. Right, Marin. She said my name like she'd practiced it. Ethan told me you two broke up in November. He told me you were having a hard time accepting it. He told me you'd been showing up places he was. She paused. Then on the 4th of July I watched him walk into your parents' house like he owned the place. And I watched him talk to you like you were a problem he was managing, and she stopped. I've seen that look before. On my own face. I stared at her. I wanted it to be a lie. I wanted her to be cold and calculating, someone I could hate without complication. But she was sitting there in a wrinkled work shirt with a half-eaten salad, looking tired, and none of it fit the story I'd been telling myself for 5 months. I don't believe you, I said. It came out smaller than I intended. That's fair, she said, but I'm not lying. I left. I sat in my car for 10 minutes with the engine off, and then I called Deja. She's playing you, Deja said before I could finish. Marin, listen to me. The best thing you can do right now is nothing. Let it die down. Don't text her. Don't text him. Don't go to Santa Monica for no reason. I had a vendor meeting. You know what I mean. She sighed. I'm on your side. I'm always on your side. But you're feeding this. Every time you engage, he wins. So I'm just supposed to let him tell everyone I'm crazy? I'm supposed to be your friend and tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it. The truth is, he's not worth it. Let it go. We didn't talk for 3 days after that. I called Jude on Wednesday. I told myself I was calling about Sunday dinner. My mom had invited everyone, and I didn't want to walk in alone again, and I was willing to pay him the same rate. But I think I just wanted to hear the voice of the only person who'd looked at me and seen something other than a problem. I can't do that, he said. Why not? I'll pay you. That's not why. He was somewhere noisy. A school, bells and kids echoing. Look, Marin, I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not your shield. If you show up to dinner with me again, you're not proving anything to him. You're just hiding behind me again. I'm not hiding. Yeah, he said, gentle but firm. You are. He paused. My sister Hannah, she left that guy eventually. But she didn't leave because somebody rescued her. She left because she got tired of her own voice apologizing. Stop asking people to stand in front of you. Decide what you want and stand there yourself. He hung up. I wanted to be angry. I couldn't, because he was right. And I hated that a man I'd paid $200 could see me more clearly than I saw myself. Sunday dinner was at 5. I showed up with a bottle of wine my mom liked, walked into the dining room, and Ethan was sitting at the table. Kristen wasn't there, thank God, but Ethan was in the seat next to my dad, passing the rolls like he belonged. My mom looked up from the kitchen and said, Marin, you're early, like she had no idea why I might have a problem with this. I stood in the doorway. You invited him. Honey, he's family. We don't stop caring about people just because he what? Left me, lied about me, told his girlfriend we broke up when we were still sleeping in the same bed? Marin, my dad's voice quiet, a warning. Ethan stood up. Marin, let's just don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare say my name like we're friends. I looked at my mom. I can't do this. I can't sit at a table with him and pretend it's fine. My mom's face did something complicated. Can't you just for once? She started over. Can't you just be the bigger person? I set the wine bottle on the counter by the door. It was the one thing I'd allowed myself to be proud of, that I was the bigger person, that I didn't make scenes. I looked at Ethan, calm and concerned and perfectly cast as the good guy, and I looked at my mom, and I said, no. I walked out. I heard her say selfish as the door closed. I sat in my car in the driveway and let myself shake for 5 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. Kristen, an Instagram DM, sent 2 minutes ago. I know you don't trust me, but I have things to show you. Texts, emails, things he sent me. Meet me somewhere public, please. I stared at the steering wheel. Then I typed, where? We met at a diner on Lincoln Boulevard, the kind with vinyl booths and a waitress who called everybody hun. Kristen was already there when I walked in, a folder on the table. No salad this time. She looked like she hadn't slept. Thanks for coming, she said. I sat down. Start talking. She opened the folder. Printouts, text messages, emails, dates highlighted in yellow. She'd organized them. I hated that she'd organized them because it meant she'd been sitting with this for a while, and I didn't want to feel anything for her except anger. I met Ethan in January, she said, at a work thing. He told me he'd been single since November, that he and his ex had broken up amicably, but she was having trouble moving on. She looked at me. That was you, November. You were still together in November. We were, I said. My mouth was dry. We went to Santa Barbara for Thanksgiving. She flinched. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. She slid a printout across the table. A text from Ethan dated January 14th. Finally free. Feels good. January 14th. We'd had dinner together on January 13th. He'd told me he loved me on January 13th. I kept reading. Texts from him coaching her. If Marin contacts you, don't engage. She's not stable. Don't post photos of us yet. She's still going through it. My ex is obsessive. I'm handling it. And then, from March, she's been stalking me. I might need to get a restraining order. Stalking. Restraining order. The words sat on the page like insects. There's more, Kristen said. She pulled out another sheet. He told me he was paying you alimony, that you refused to move out and he was still covering half the rent out of guilt. She paused. But I saw something. In April, he left his email open on my laptop, and there was a charge, a credit card in your name, furniture for my apartment, the couch, the dining table. He put them on your card, the jewelry store. April 3rd, $460. I thought of the necklace Kristen wore every day, a small gold star on a thin chain. I'd seen it in her Instagram photos. The necklace, I said. She touched it, unconsciously. He gave it to me for my birthday. In April, I put the printouts down. The waitress came by and refilled my coffee, and I waited until she was gone before I said, why are you showing me this? Why now? Because at the party, I watched him look at you when that guy was talking. And I didn't see a man worried about his ex. I saw a man who was scared. She closed the folder. And because he's starting to do it to me now. Telling me who I can hang out with. Checking my phone. Asking why I need a girls' night if I have him. She gave me a thin, terrible smile. I guess the rotation is faster than I thought. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat where Jude had been 3 weeks earlier. I went inside and pulled every statement I had. Bank records, credit card bills, the joint account we'd never closed. I spread them across the kitchen table and made a timeline. November, Ethan and I at dinner, him saying I love you. December, him distant, working late, on his phone in the bathroom. January, Kristen. February, I need space. March, photos of them on Instagram. March through June, the card. Furniture, restaurants, gas, groceries, a necklace for another woman. All in my name. All while he told people I was the one who couldn't let go. I didn't cry. I sat there and felt something cold and precise move through me, like a needle finding a vein. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity, and it was worse than sadness, because it meant I couldn't go back to telling myself it was my fault. The buzzer rang at 9. I didn't check the camera. I thought it was Deja, finally coming to make up. I buzzed him up and opened the door, and it was Ethan. He didn't look like the Ethan from the party. The smile was gone. His jaw was set and he was standing too straight. The way he stood when we fought about something he didn't want to fight about. When he'd decided I was being unreasonable and he was going to wait me out. "You've been talking to Kristen," he said. "Not a question. How did you—" "She's been distant. She's been asking questions." "I'm not stupid, Marin." He took a step toward me, and I stepped back, and he saw me step back, and something in his face changed. Satisfaction almost. That he still had the power to make me flinch. "Stay away from her. And stop telling people lies about me. I'm warning you. You're warning me." My voice came out steady, which surprised both of us. "You put $8,000 on my card. You told people I was stalking you. You told your girlfriend we broke up when we were still together. And you're warning me." His eyes narrowed. "You authorized that card. That's on you. Get out. Marin, get out of my building." I held the door open. My hand was shaking on the knob, but I held it. "If you come here again, I'll call the police." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded once and walked away. I closed the door and locked it and slid down to the floor, my back against the wood. In the dark entryway with the kitchen light on and the statement spread across the table, my phone buzzed. Kristen. 3 screenshots, just like she'd promised. The most recent was a text from Ethan, sent last night. "If Marin reaches out again, don't respond. She's not well. I'm handling it." I looked at it. I looked at the door. I looked at the statements on the table. Then I called Jude. It went to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't sleep that night. Not the way you don't sleep when you're excited or anxious. This was a long, flat vigil where I sat on the kitchen floor with the statements spread around me and read them over and over, as though repetition might change what they said. I called Deja at 11. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Marin, it's late. He came to my apartment." Silence. Then, careful. "What do you mean, came to your apartment?" "I mean he showed up at my door. He told me to stay away from Kristen. He threatened me." Another silence. Longer. "Did he touch you?" "No, but then I need you to listen to me, because I love you." She paused, and I knew what was coming the way you know a wave before it hits. "You need to stop. You need to stop engaging with him, with Kristen, with all of it. You're making it worse. Every time he put $8,000 on my credit card. I know, and that's terrible, but you can handle that through the bank. You don't have to." He told people I was stalking him. He told his girlfriend we broke up while we were still together. He showed up at my door, Deja, and you want me to tell you to fight him. I can't do that. I can't watch you do this to yourself." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I need to sleep." She hung up. I sat on the floor and listened to the dial tone, then put the phone down and didn't call anyone else. My mom called in the morning. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Marin, Ethan called me. He said you threatened him. He said you've been harassing Kristen. I think you need to talk to someone, a professional. I think we need to take a break until you're feeling more like yourself." A text from my dad, sent 40 minutes later. "Your mother is upset. Let it rest." No word from Gwen. No word from Todd, though Todd communicated mostly in memes, so that wasn't necessarily a sign. Jude still hadn't called back. I was alone in a way I hadn't been since the breakup, and the difference was that this time I could see it clearly. I wasn't alone because I was broken. I was alone because I was telling the truth. And the truth was inconvenient for everyone who'd decided Ethan was a good guy. I spent the day on the floor. I drank 2 glasses of water and half a bottle of wine, which was a mistake, and I went through my phone looking for something, though I didn't know what. Old photos. Old texts. The draft messages folder. I found it at 4 in the afternoon, buried where I didn't know I had it. A text, never sent, dated February 17th, 5 days after Ethan left. "I'm sorry I'm hard to love. I'll be better. Please come home." I read it. Read it again. Put the phone down. Picked it up and read it a 3rd time, and then I deleted it. And when it was gone, I made a sound I didn't recognize. Not a sob. Exactly. More like a laugh that had gone wrong. Like my body was trying to feel 2 things at once. "I'm sorry I'm hard to love." I'd written that. I'd believed that. I'd sat in this apartment alone and typed those words to a man already sleeping in another woman's bed. And I'd meant them. I got off the floor. Washed my face. Made coffee. Real coffee. Not the sad instant stuff I'd been drinking since February. I sat at the kitchen table with the statements and the folder and a legal pad, and I started writing. Dates, amounts, incidents, the November dinner, the January text, the card charges, the party, the phone calls, the voicemails. I wrote it all down. Not for the police, not for a lawyer, but for me, because if I didn't write it down, I'd start telling myself it wasn't that bad, and I couldn't afford that anymore. Jude called back around 6. I didn't tell him about Ethan at the door or the text. I just said, "That number you gave me. Your sister's clinic." "Yeah. Will you text it to me again?" He was quiet a second. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I will." He texted it 5 minutes later. I stared at it for an hour. Then I called. The woman who answered was warm and tired sounding, the way people who do difficult work for not enough money sound. I told her my name. I told her I wasn't in physical danger, not exactly, but that I'd been in a relationship with someone who'd controlled my finances and told people I was unstable, and that I didn't know what my rights were. She listened, didn't interrupt. When I was done, she said, "Okay, first thing, you're not crazy. Second, I want you to come in. We'll go through everything, but before we hang up, are you safe? Does he know where you live?" I opened my mouth to say yes, of course, I'm fine. I'd said those words so many times they'd worn a groove in my tongue. "I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine." I closed my mouth. I thought about Ethan in my doorway, the look on his face when I stepped back. I thought about the text I deleted. Not entirely, I said. The forms came on Tuesday. I filled them out at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and the legal pad, and mailed them back certified. The bank investigator called on Thursday, a woman named Patricia, who said a lot, and took notes while I walked her through every charge. The couch, the necklace, the Malibu restaurant I'd never been to. She asked if I had a police report. I said no. She said it might help. I said I'd think about it. After I hung up, I drove to Torrance. Todd worked at a dispensary on Pacific Coast Highway in a strip mall between a nail salon and a karate place. He was behind the counter when I walked in, wearing a tie-dye shirt and a lanyard with a cartoon pot leaf on it, helping a guy in a suit decide between two strains. He saw me and did a double take. Hey, you okay? I wasn't. I'd spent the car ride trying not to cry, and I'd mostly succeeded, but my eyes were hot and my throat was tight. Can we talk? When you're done. He looked at the guy in the suit. Dude, take the blue dream, trust me. The guy left. Todd locked the display case and came around the counter. What happened? I told him. All of it. The card, the texts, the calls to my mom, the way Ethan had told people I was unstable, the night he showed up at my door. I told him about the unsent text and the $8,000 and how I'd hired Jude because I was too scared to walk into my parents' house alone. Todd didn't interrupt. He leaned against the counter with his arms crossed, and his face did something I'd never seen before. It got hard. When I was done, he said, "Why didn't you tell us?" Because I was ashamed. Because I thought it was my fault. Because every time I tried to say something, Mom asked what I did. And Gwen told me to be the bigger person, and Dad just... I stopped. Dad didn't say anything. Yeah, Todd said. He does that. He was quiet a minute. Then, you want my advice? You tell them. All of them. Not over the phone. In person. With the receipts. He tapped the folder I was holding. You show them every goddamn piece of paper. I'm not ready. Okay, then when you are, I'm there. He said it simply, like it was obvious. Like being on my side didn't require a speech. Also, for the record, that Jude guy was sick. What he said to Ethan. I'd been wanting to say something like that for 2 years. I almost laughed. You knew? Please. He rolled his eyes. I work in a dispensary. I know what a controlling asshole looks like. I just didn't know it was that bad. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months, which was a strange way to feel after telling your little brother your ex financially exploited you. But it was the first time I'd said it out loud to someone, in my family, and they hadn't asked me what I did. Wrong. Ethan came to my office on Wednesday. I was at my desk going over tile samples for a house in Hancock Park when Pam appeared in my doorway with a tight smile and said, "Maren? There's someone here to see you." Behind her, through the glass lobby, I could see Ethan holding a coffee, looking like he belonged there. My stomach dropped. Pam, I don't want to... I know. She held up a hand. I told him you were busy. He said he'd wait. He's been waiting 20 minutes. She lowered her voice. Maren, I don't want drama in the office. Can you just talk to him? Get him out of here? I looked past her at Ethan. He saw me looking and raised the coffee in a little toast. Friendly, reasonable, the guy everyone felt sorry for. I stood up. No, Pam blinked. No, I'm not going to talk to him. If he doesn't leave, I'm calling building security. And if he comes back, I'm calling the police. My voice was steady. My hands were not. He's not allowed here. This is my workplace. Pam studied me for a long second. Then she nodded once and turned around. I heard her say, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And Ethan said something low and sharp I couldn't make out. And then the front door opened and closed. He called my phone that night. I didn't answer. Called again. I didn't answer. The third time, he left a voicemail. I saved it before I listened, because something in me knew. Then I played it. God damn it, Maren. You think you can embarrass me like that? In front of my family? In front of Kristen? You're nothing. You were nothing before me, and you'll be nothing after. You want to tell people I'm crazy? Fine, go ahead. But don't think for 1 second I won't tell every single person we know exactly what you are. You're a sad, pathetic little girl who can't... It went on another 40 seconds. I listened to the whole thing. Then I listened again. The second time, I didn't hear a monster. I heard a man who was losing. I forwarded the voicemail to Hannah. Then I forwarded it to Kristen. Kristen texted back 4 minutes later. I believe you. I have more. Can I come over? I looked at the text. I looked at the legal pad on my kitchen table. All the dates and amounts in my handwriting. I thought about Todd in the dispensary saying I'm there. I thought about Pam nodding and turning around. Yeah, I typed. Come over. Kristen showed up at 9 with a rolling suitcase and a banker's box. The suitcase was for one night, she said. She'd left Ethan that afternoon, packed while he was at work, and she didn't have a plan beyond not sleeping in his apartment. The box was full of more printouts, emails, account statements, a credit report she'd pulled after I showed her mine. On top was a document I hadn't expected. A new credit card, opened in her name in May, with a $3,000 balance she said she hadn't authorized. He did the same thing to you, I said. Looks like. She was standing in my living room with her coat still on, looking around like she'd never seen a one-bedroom in Culver City before. I'm not asking to stay. I just couldn't think of anywhere else to go. You can stay on the couch. One night? We'll figure it out tomorrow. She nodded. She didn't cry. She just set the box on my coffee table and said, he's going to lose it when he figures out I'm here. Let him. We went through the box together. It was worse than I'd thought. Not just the card, but emails where Ethan referred to me as the X situation and told Kristen to avoid engaging with her because she was unmedicated. Unmedicated. He'd never once suggested I see a doctor while we were together. He'd saved that for after, when he needed a story. Kristen stayed 4 days. She spent them on her laptop and her phone, making calls, finding a sublet. By Friday night, she had a line on a studio in Silver Lake and a plan to pick up keys Saturday morning. I called my mom that same night. I want to come over Sunday. All of us. Me, you, Dad, Gwen, Todd. I have things to say and I want to say them once. She tried to argue. I didn't let her. 1 o'clock. I'll be there. I showed up at 1 with the folder and the legal pad, and the voicemail saved on my phone. Todd was already there, at the dining table with his arms crossed, looking like he'd been there an hour. Gwen came last, Craig trailing behind, her face already set in the expression she wore when she was prepared to be disappointed. I sat down. I didn't start with the party. I started with the credit card. I showed them the statements, the couch, the necklace, the dinners. I showed them the texts Ethan sent Kristen, the ones where he called me unstable and obsessive. I played the voicemail. I let them hear him call me a sad, pathetic little girl, in a voice I'd never heard him use in front of them. Nobody interrupted. When the voicemail ended, the dining room was quiet. My mom was crying. Not dramatic crying, just tears running down her face while she stared at the table. Gwen looked like she'd been slapped. Craig stared at his shoes. My dad was the first to speak. His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in a while. I watched football with that son of a bitch. It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't an apology, but it was something, and I took it. Gwen said, "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did tell you. On the phone. You told me to be the bigger person." She flinched. "I didn't know. You didn't ask. It came out harder than I meant it to, but I didn't take it back. You decided he was the good guy because he was nice to you at Christmas, and you never asked me what actually happened." She opened her mouth, closed it. Then she said, quiet, "I'm sorry." My mom reached across the table. Her hand hovered near mine, not sure if it was allowed. "Marin, I know, Mom. I just wanted everyone to get along. I know. I didn't forgive her. Not yet. But I didn't pull my hand away. Ethan's last move came that night in the family group chat. I wasn't in it anymore. I'd muted it after the 4th, but Todd screenshot it and sent it to me. A long message from Ethan, carefully written. The kind of thing he was good at. He was heartbroken that Marin had fabricated these stories. He'd tried to be supportive, but her behavior was escalating, and the fact that she'd hired an actor to intimidate him at the 4th of July party was evidence of a larger pattern of instability. He was reaching out as a friend because he was worried. I read, "It waited." Todd replied first. "Yeah. She hired him because she didn't want to be alone in a room with you. Can you blame her?" Then Gwen. "Ethan, I think you should leave this group." Then my dad. 3 words. "Don't come back." My mom didn't type anything, but she didn't defend him either, and that was enough. I showed the screenshots to Kristen on the couch. She read them and handed the phone back. "He's going to try something else. Labor Day, your parents' party. He shows up every year. I know. What are you going to do?" I looked at the calendar on the wall. 3 weeks. "I'm going to be there," I said. And he's not. Labor Day was hot. The kind that sits on you like a blanket, that makes grill smoke hang in the air instead of rising. My dad was at the Weber when I arrived, in the same apron. He looked up when I pulled in and gave me a nod. Not much, but from him it was a hug. Kristen wasn't there. We'd talked about it. She'd said, "This is your day, not mine." And I'd agreed, though I'd almost asked her to come anyway, just for the numbers. But I didn't need numbers. I needed to be able to say I did it myself. The afternoon was almost normal. Mia and Chase ran through the sprinklers. Craig burned the hot dogs on purpose because the kids liked them charred. Gwen asked me about work. Really asked. And I told her about the Hancock Park house and the tile samples, and she listened. My mom didn't say anything about Ethan. She just handed me a lemonade and squeezed my shoulder once. Quick, like she was afraid I'd break if she held on too long. Todd showed up with a bag of charcoal nobody needed, and a 6-pack of something hoppy. Leaned against the fence next to me and said, "You ready?" "I think so." "Good, because he's here." I followed his eyes. A black BMW was turning into the driveway. My dad saw it too. He set down the tongs. Gwen came to stand beside me. Craig shifted his weight, uncertain. My mom came out of the kitchen with a bowl of pasta salad and stopped on the porch steps. Ethan got out. He was wearing the navy polo again, or one just like it, carrying a bottle of wine and a small wrapped gift. For my parents, probably. Something to make him look thoughtful. He walked up the lawn like he had every right, smiling, until he saw the way we were all standing. "Hey," he said. "Happy Labor Day. I brought—" "You need to leave," I said. He blinked. The smile didn't falter. "Marin, come on. Can we just—" "No." My voice was clear. I could hear it, steady and even, and I didn't recognize it. "You don't get to come here. Not after what you did. Not after the card. Not after the voicemails. Not after you told my own mother I was crazy." His jaw tightened. "I don't know what she's told you, but she showed us," Todd said. "We saw it. All of it." Ethan looked at Todd, then Gwen, then my dad. "You're really going to take her side? After everything I've done for this family? After 3 years?" "3 years," my dad said. He took a step forward. He wasn't a big man, but he was a man who'd spent 30 years in aerospace. And when he stopped being quiet, you listened. You sat at my table for 3 years. You watched football with me. And the whole time you were— He stopped like the words were too distasteful to finish. "Get off my property." Ethan's face went through something. Anger, calculation, a final attempt at charm. He looked at my mom. "Carol, tell me you're not—" My mom set down the pasta salad. Her hands were shaking. "I think you should go, Ethan." That was it. He stood there another second, holding his wine and his gift, and then he turned and walked back to his car. He didn't look at me again. I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 6 months. Gwen squeezed my arm. Todd said, "That was badass." Quiet enough only I heard. My dad went back to the grill like nothing had happened, but I saw him wipe his hand on his apron like he'd touched something dirty. I went inside to get more ice. I was standing in the kitchen with the freezer door open when I heard a car door slam out front, too hard, too fast, and then my name, loud, shouted across the lawn. I came back outside. Ethan was standing by his car. He hadn't left. He'd waited. "Maren," he said again. And his voice was different now. No smile, no polish, just raw and ugly and stripped of everything he'd hidden behind. "Can I talk to you for 1 second? Alone. I should have stayed on the porch. Should have let my dad handle it, but I walked down the lawn to the driveway because I was done letting other people stand between me and him. Say what you need to say, I told him. He kept his voice low so the house couldn't hear. You think this changes anything? You think you're better than me now? You're still the same person who apologized to a stranger for the 405. You're still the girl who begged me to stay. He leaned in. You think anyone will ever love you if you're this much work? It was the thing I'd been most afraid of. The sentence I'd carried like a stone in my chest. I'm sorry I'm hard to love. I looked at him, really looked, at the tight line of his mouth and the anger in his eyes and the fear underneath. The fear of a man who'd just realized he couldn't control the story anymore. I waited. 1 beat, 2. That's not my problem anymore, I said. I turned and walked back to the house. He yelled my name. I didn't stop, didn't look back. I walked up the porch steps and through the door and into the kitchen. Stood there with my hands on the counter and I shook. My arms, my legs, my whole body. But I was standing. The front door closed. A car engine started. Drove away. My mom came in. She didn't say anything. She just stood next to me and put her hand on my back. And we stayed like that until the shaking stopped. The bank resolved the dispute in October, most of it anyway. They reversed the furniture charges and the necklace and the restaurant, but they wouldn't cover the groceries and the gas because those were household expenses, and I'd given him the card. I accepted it. $8,000 became $1,200, and $1,200 was the cost of getting out, and I could live with that. I started seeing a therapist named Ruth, a woman in her 60s with an office above a bakery on Main Street in Santa Monica. Ruth asked me questions I didn't have answers to. What did I like? Not what did Ethan like? Not what did my parents like? Not what was I supposed to like? Me. I didn't know. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do, and it was awful, and then it got easier. I signed up for a pottery class at the community center because I liked the sound clay made when it hit the wheel. A wet, solid thud. I was terrible at it. I kept going. Deja showed up at my door in mid-September with a bottle of wine and no apology, which was how Deja apologized. She sat on my couch and said, I was wrong. I told you to let it go because I was scared of how angry you were, and that was on me. I said, you were also kind of right. I was a mess. She said, yeah, but you were my mess. We drank the wine and watched a terrible reality show and didn't talk about Ethan once. Kristen got her own apartment in Silver Lake, a studio with a fire escape and a view of somebody else's palm tree. We weren't friends exactly. We texted sometimes, articles about financial abuse, a meme about controlling men, occasional updates on the credit card investigations. She started seeing someone new in November. She didn't tell me much about him and I didn't ask. Some boundaries were healthy. Gwen was trying. It was awkward and halting, the way it is when someone who's always been the expert on your life has to learn how to be your sister instead. She called me on Sundays, asked about pottery, didn't give advice unless I asked. It wasn't perfect. It was better. My dad started texting me. Not about feelings. My dad didn't do feelings, but about the Rams' offensive line, about a grill he wanted to buy, about an article he'd read about tile. Short, functional texts. I texted back. It was how he said I see you. My mom and I were slower. She didn't know how to talk about what had happened, and I didn't know how to forgive her for asking if I was taking my meds, but she stopped asking when I'd start dating again. She started asking about my day. That was something. I paid Jude in October. We met at the coffee shop in Mar Vista, the same one where I'd picked him up, and I handed him an envelope with $250 in cash. $200 was the deal, he said. $200 was the deal. $50 is for potato. Buy her something disgusting. He smiled. It changed his whole face, and I understood for the first time why he did theater. We sat 40 minutes with our coffees. He told me about the middle school play he was directing, Annie, but with 12-year-olds who can't sing, and I told him about pottery class and the bank and Ruth. He didn't reach across the table. He didn't say this was the start of something. He just said, I'm glad you're okay, and I said, me too, and we both knew it wasn't a promise, and it didn't have to be. When I left, I got on the 405, and of course it was parking. Brake lights stretched red as far as I could see. Somebody honked. Somebody cut somebody off. I sat there with the window down. I'd finally had the handle fixed. $40 at the auto shop, turned up the radio, and didn't apologize to anyone. I found the spider that night in the bathroom. It was in the bathtub, small and brown, moving in that quick, uncertain way spiders move when they don't know how they got somewhere. I looked at it and thought about Jude in the passenger seat, looking at me like that, like I was something he hadn't expected to find, something that needed to be recognized before it could be helped. I got a glass from the kitchen and a piece of paper from the printer, knelt down by the tub and guided the spider into the glass, slow and careful, carried it out to the balcony, tilted the glass. It hesitated a second, then crawled out and over the railing and was gone. I stood there a minute. The air was warm and dry, the way it gets in October in Los Angeles, and I could hear the 405 in the distance, that constant low.